know that you are in the gym and joining us today, and we are so glad you are with us. I was walking the wayside, lost on a lonely road. I was chasing the high life, trying to satisfy my soul. All the lies I believed in left me crying like the rain. Then I saw lightning from heaven, and I've never been the same. I'm gonna climb a mountain, I'm gonna shout about it. I am a child of love. I found a world of freedom, I found a friend in Jesus. I am a child of love. I felt the sting of the fire, but I saw you in the rain. Just when I thought it was over, you broke me out of the grave. Hallelujah! I'm gonna climb a mountain, I'm gonna shout about it. I am a child of love. I found a world of freedom, I found a friend in Jesus. I am a child of love. Yeah, yeah. Oh, oh. I am a child of love. Let me hear you say yeah. Oh, oh. I am a child of love. And nothing can change the way you love me. Oh, nothing can change the way I belong to you. Yes, I do. Nothing can separate, and nothing can change the way you love me. Oh, nothing can change the way I belong to you. Yes, I do. Nothing can separate. I'm gonna climb a mountain. Yeah, yeah. I am a child of love. Whoa. I found a world of freedom. be the same. That's why I sing, oh, my hope is in Jesus. Thank God that yesterday is gone. All my sins are forgiven. I've been washed by blood. There's a kind of thing that just breaks a man. Break him down to his knees. God, I've been broken more than a time or two. Yes, pick me up and showed me what it means to be. Come on and sing, oh, my hope is in Jesus. Thank God that yesterday is gone. All my sins are forgiven. I've been washed by the blood. Come on and sing, oh, my hope is in Jesus. Thank God that yesterday is gone. And all my sins are forgiven. I've been washed by blood.
So it's really good to be with you today. So happy to be here. I'm going to give you a couple of things. The first thing I'm going to give you is some information. I'm going to be talking about an older generation, and I'm going to be talking about a younger generation. And my gift to you on that is you get to decide which generation you're in. We're also going to be talking about technology and information. And I want you to know there's nothing wrong really with technology or information. It's really just how we use it. And I'm also going to answer a couple of questions. And the first question I'm going to answer is, what is FOBO? And the reason I'm going to answer that is because we put that out on Facebook this week, and so we got some feedback like, what is FOBO? And also, what is Finsta? Now, I'm going to tell you what FOBO is a little bit later, but I'm not going to tell you what Finsta is. So your assignment is to find somebody that's 30 years of age or younger and ask them, what's Finsta? And I guarantee you, they're not going to tell you. So you're going to have to Google it, okay? So you find out what Finsta is. And Finsta and FOBO, they're kind of these new terms. They're newer. They're not that new, but we're really inundated with all kinds of new information these days. I mean, you used to be able to say to somebody, hey, what's new? And they'd say, I don't know, not much. You? But today, if you say what's new, Man, you might get a stare, or get ready, it might be a list, because literally everything is new. Everything is new all the time.
You writing a novel?
Oh, no, it's a Facebook message.
That? To who?
Babe from high school.
Oh.
Allie.
Allie? Like the Allie? What? This is huge. This is huge. This is so huge. But I mean, you're not gonna send that, right? You cannot send her that message.
Why not?
Because it's like 80 pages in all caps.
I have 35 years worth of stuff to say, all right?
Okay, yeah, but shorter messages are way cooler. Like this just looks desperate and a little creepy. Okay, sending her this would be like if you liked all of her photos. Oh no. Oh no.
Me. We live in this culture. Really, it's an amazing culture. But things are always changing. It's rapid fire change. And it's really, really just almost impossible to understand, really hard to understand everything, and impossible to understand, and hard to keep up with, and maybe impossible to keep up with. And we're constantly connected with devices. I mean, you guys know, you probably all have a phone with you of some sort. Maybe it's a smartphone, or maybe if you're really cool, it's a flip phone. And you've got other things, right? You've got smart devices in your home. You've got Alexa, Hey Siri, right? All that. And you've got maybe an Xbox or maybe a PlayStation 5 if you got that for Christmas. And some of you have apps on your phone right now where you can start your car. And like, you're probably doing that right now. Like, I'm going to start my car right now because it's time to go. The apps are always new. They're always updated. And so you're getting new apps, and then they're getting updated, and they're created, and they're updated, and created, and updated. And it's hard to keep up. I worked in the IT industry for 20 or so years off and on. And I can't keep up with it all because it's nearly impossible. I mean, I might be able to write a group policy or work in Active Directory or map a printer, all that geeky stuff. But I really can't FaceTime very well. As a matter of fact, here's a picture of me FaceTiming with Joni Griffin, Pastor Joni, during meeting. And this is my team in a creative arts meeting. And this is my team telling me, did you know there's a button on FaceTime you can push that flips the camera around to the other camera on the other side so you don't actually have to turn the phone around for other people to see? So I didn't know that. Another thing that's really new today is not only all the devices that we have, but the amount of information that's coming in, right? 24/7 news cycle right in the palm of your hand. And for those of you who don't know, it never used to be that way. I mean, the news used to come on a piece of paper rolled up at your doorstep, or maybe, and that was once a day in the morning, or maybe you saw the news at 6 o'clock at night, maybe you listened to the radio, but it wasn't all the time. And I don't need to remind you about the list of stuff that you're seeing on your phones, because what's the first thing you see in the morning? It's the last thing you see before you go to bed. I mean, the stories are on politics, and maybe it's tough stuff like shootings and hate and violence, and it can be pretty negative at times. But I actually saw a statistic that says that violent crime has actually gone down in the last 25 years. But you would never know that because it doesn't feel that way, right? It doesn't feel that way. Or did I just give you misinformation? I don't know. Google it. Or if you're like me, DuckDuckGo it. And if you don't know what DuckDuckGo is, Google it, right? And there's also this seemingly harmless information. So not only do we have our news cycle, but we've got that other kinds of information that comes in. Like maybe you have these really great friends, and they took this trip, and it's a trip you could never afford. But they're kind enough to put the pictures of a magnificent trip on Facebook for you to see. Or maybe you have a neighbor that's really great at cooking, and I don't know why people do this, but they take pictures of their food and they post them on Instagram, right? And you're watching these great meals come on Instagram while you're struggling to make mac and cheese, and you do not want a picture of my mac and cheese on Instagram. It's ugly. Or maybe you think that you see something and you're not sure what it is. It's like a party going on, and it's happening right now, and you weren't invited to it, but you can see it on Snap. Immediately, you're left out. Or if you're a little younger, maybe you have a friend who dumps barbecue sauce all over themselves, and they take a video of that and they post it on TikTok, and now all of your friends are dumping barbecue sauce all over themselves because they want to get a viral video like your friend just got because of the barbecue sauce. But by the time you see that, do that, post that, the trending sauce has moved from barbecue sauce to mustard, and you're never going to get on the For You page. And I want you to know, too, that most people over the age of 30 have no idea what I just said. So all of this information for our young generation starts to make them feel a little bit like they're left out because they're seeing it all the time in the younger generation, along with the news cycle. They might feel like they're left out or left behind or maybe not good enough compared to what they're seeing. And then our news cycle keeps going over and over again into their eyes. And we wonder why the younger generation is considered the most anxious generation of all. So their fear and their anxiety goes up. So you've heard of fear of missing out. You've all heard that. But have you heard of FOBO? And this is fear of being offline. So not only are we afraid of missing out on something, we're afraid of being disconnected from learning about what we're missing out on. And there's even a phobia now called no-mo-phobia. And it stands for no mobile phobia, which is anxiety or fear of not having a working mobile phone. This is where we are. You've heard of helicopter parenting, right? This has been around since 1969. I did not know that. I thought I invented that. But we're connected constantly to information about maybe sketchy people online or sketchy information online. We don't know. We're struggling. I'm in the older generation. That's where I put myself. I'm struggling with technology, and I don't get it all. And I see and hear these scary stories. And so what happens to me? My concern for what's happening online just keeps going up and up and up. And so no longer do we have just helicopter parenting. We have this thing called snowplow parenting. We're just going to pave a way for our children. There's going to be nothing that's going to harm them. They're not going to get in trouble. So we're just going to make it completely safe. And now it's not only snowplow. There's a new one called lawnmower parenting. And I don't know what lawnmower parenting is, but that sounds not good. It can't be good.
Yeah, I think that we haven't grown up without technology in our hands.
More social media and technology based.
Everything revolves around technology now, and versus back then.
I think the best way to describe our generation, Generation Z, is simply just misunderstood.
I think stressed.
Maybe more than other generations is more like open and accepting to others.
I think Generation Z is portrayed bad in a lot of ways by older generations, and I think that it's important for older generations to know that we offer a lot of good and that we actually have a lot of good traits.
But at the same time, I also feel like we're woke.
I was the cool kid with the slide.
I got my first cell phone in 5th grade, actually.
Nokia flip phone, 4th grade. I played Snake.
When we turned 12 in our family, we all got phones, so that's like when my parents like gave us like phones and like social media too.
Parents are so just hesitant and scared about social media is simply because it's new. I mean, they didn't have it growing up.
My parents, they're pretty like cool with it, and I think that they just don't want me to be on it like constantly, like live my life on social media. They want me to live in like the real world.
I spend about 7 hours a day on my phone.
That's interesting.
Usually at school, we're just trying to, if someone texts us, we're trying to like sneak it real quick, but we don't.
We're being really honest.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't even think I like know how much time I like spend on my phone.
I think you know you're spending too much time on social media when you neglect your family or your friends and you forget to spend time with them.
When my phone is taken away, I feel like disconnected from the rest of the world for a little bit until I find something else to do eventually.
The biggest thing is causing me stress right now, so I'm testing in my grades.
Our generation is pretty stressed from school to like social media, relationships.
Boys, boys are a lot to handle, and so yeah, I think that's the biggest stress I've had all year.
My parents misunderstand me or like my generation because they just didn't grow up with that.
you know, mom, like it's different. It's not the same as when you grew up.
But like I feel like we're all different, and so don't treat us all the same.
It's simply just not the same as it used to be. I mean, I think they tend to apply their logic they used back in the 70s and 80s to now, and it's just simply not the same.
Like I'm still a teenager and I'm struggling to like adapt to like moving on to like adult life.
Be open-minded about like the ideas that we bring to the table.
I think our generation has the capacity to change the world for the better and to connect everyone in any way, shape, or form.
And I actually agree with that last statement. I think so too. But our older generation, we're concerned from all the things that we're seeing. And our younger generation, well, they're getting more anxious. Our older generation, we're kind of afraid of new things. And our younger generation is afraid of missing out on new things. So our older generation is struggling with fear, and our younger generation is struggling with fear. And that struggle, well, that has left us disconnected.
Proceed straight.
Well, we're 0 for 6. Last chance is the Elmhurst Country Club, other side of the lake on the southeast side.
I don't get it. I really don't get it. I thought this would work. Threw everything I had at that guy, nothing.
That's how it goes sometimes, you know? You lose everything, and everything falls apart, and eventually you die and no one remembers you.
That is a very good point, Dwight.
Make a right turn.
Wait, no. It means bear right.
No,
Up there.
It said right. It said take a right.
No, look. It means go up to the right, bear right, over the bridge, and hook up with 307.
Make a right
Maybe it's
turn.
a shortcut, Dwight. It said go to the right.
It can't mean that. There's a lake
right
there.
there.
I think it knows where it is going.
This is
the
lake.
machine knows.
This is the lake.
Stop yelling at me.
No, it's
Stop
up
yelling.
there.
There's no road here. Remain calm. I have trained for this. Okay. Exit the window. Here we go.
Make a U-turn, if possible.
Look out for Legion. Michael, are you okay? Swim for it. I got you.
So unlike Michael Scott, Jesus, and I've always wanted to say that in church. All right, let me try it again. Unlike Michael Scott, Jesus was no stranger to new things. As a matter of fact, Jesus was Stranger Things. I mean, he was the person who was out with the old map and in with the GPS because he wasn't afraid of new. He wasn't afraid of new ways. Think about it. He said something brand new. You've heard eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, that old thing. Well, how about a new thing? Let's turn the other cheek. Or if somebody asks for your shirt, how about a new thing? Let's give them your coat too. Or if somebody says, hey, let's walk 1 mile, how about we do something new? Let's walk 2. And maybe you've even all heard this. Love your neighbor, but hate your enemy. And Jesus said, let's try it a new way. How about we love and we pray for them both? How about how he treated people? I mean, he healed people, Jesus did. And he ate with people considered to be on the outside. And he taught the poor, and he fed everyone. There was new things, new ideas, new ways, and heck, for all of you theology buffs out there, new covenant. Jesus was the new thing. He was filled with faith, and so he stayed connected to people. Now, if we compare that to the religious establishment of his time, we would see how they treated Jesus in his new ways. Eat dinner with somebody that's considered on the outside of your group, you'll probably get judged. Heal somebody or help somebody on a Sunday, you'll get harassed. How about you teach something that challenges the establishment? Well, in this case, it would be an assassination plot against you. Or, finally, claim to be the person that can change the world and that can save the world. And I mean the whole world, not just your little group. Well, we know how that turned out. Death. So the establishment feared loss of control, loss of power, and change. Old ideas, old ways, old hearts, old covenant. They were fear-filled, and because they were fear-filled, they were disconnected. So I'm sure you can see this now. Faith keeps us connected, and fear keeps us disconnected. Now, we can all relate to fear because we can feel it. It's an emotion. And like my friend Kelly Wright says, it's an emotion, so it's not right or wrong. It just is. But there are two kinds of fear. There's healthy fear and unhealthy fear. Now, unhealthy fear is like the time Peter in the Bible took a swim right after he walked on water. Yes, even the disciples felt fear. And remember, they were around stranger things a lot. So in this scene, Jesus gives Peter the green light. He said, hey, Son of God here, come on over. Walk toward me on the water. Giving you the green light, that's a yes. That's how it started, but that's not how it ended. Then Peter got down out of the boat and he walked on the water. Little faith there. And he came toward Jesus, but when he saw the wind, he was afraid, fear, and beginning to sink, he cried, Lord, save me. And immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him, and he said this, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Man, that is me. I am Peter. I'm the guy that jumps out. I don't even think I would have gotten a step on the water. I don't even think I would have got it. It would have been plunge. But what I love about what Jesus said there was little faith. He didn't say no faith. He said, you have a little faith. And that doesn't mean that I get to walk on water, but it does give me some hope. And that kind of fear is called the spirit of fear. And it's an unhealthy fear. And Jesus encourages us not to have that. And that's why he teaches so often on worry and anxiety and fear and peace. And there's a second kind of fear. There's unhealthy and there's also healthy fear. So let's take a look at Peter again. There's another water scene example. And this is when Peter and Jesus kind of first met one another. And so Jesus is helping Peter with catching fish. Simon Peter answered, Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything, but because you say so, little faith, I'll let down the nets. And when he had done so, they caught a bunch of fish, so many that the nets started to tear. So they said, hey, buddies. And they called their buddies over there, and they said, bring your boat. We have too many fish for our boat. They filled both boats with fish. Both boats began to sink because of the amount of fish. And then Peter saw this. He fell at Jesus' knees, and he said, thanks for the fish. No, he said, go away from me, Lord. Go away from me, because I'm a sinful man. This is known as the fear of God, Peter's response, the fear of God. Or another way to say it is the respect of God. Because healthy fear respects the situation. Healthy fear respects the person in charge. Healthy fear respects technology. Healthy fear respects the application. Healthy fear respects boundaries. And healthy fear is actually a part of faith. The writer of Hebrews says, faith is the confidence in what we hope for and the assurance of what we do not see. Now, that verse for me is heady. I mean, it's over my head, actually. So I have to whittle it down a bit. I don't really believe that it's a definition of faith as much as it is a description of faith. So I try to whittle it down to this, that faith is a human response to God's faithfulness. Faith is a human response, my response to God's faithfulness. And it makes real today the future promises of God. And that's not quite good enough for me, so I make it even simpler so I can handle it. And this is a little bit hard to say, but I think this is accurate. Ultimately, everything will be all right. If I think about the future promises of God and apply them to today, ultimately, everything's going to be all right. Now, James wrote a book, made the Bible, and he said this, faith without works is dead. So if we add that piece to the previous piece from the writer of Hebrews, we come up with a definition that looks like this. Ultimately, everything is going to be okay, and I'm going to act like it. And that can be hard because life is hard, right? And there is fear in life. But ultimately, in this life or in the next, ultimately, it's going to be okay, and I'm going to act like it. Now, my buddy Andy Stanley, we chatted, and he says things better than most. Actually, he has no idea who I am. But he says things really well. So he says this is what faith is. When our active faith intersects with God's faithfulness, our faith grows. Now remember, faith includes the respect of God, and I think that's important for all generations to remember, but especially the younger generation, that when you're talking about faith, that does not mean that you can ignore gravity. That does not mean that you can play Frogger for real on the street, and even our older generations know what Frogger is. And it means that you can't be reckless online, because logic in God's economy, logic is not out of play. So now Jesus gives this really amazing story. He tells it, I love it, it challenges his readers, and it's about two generations that are disconnected, and they're struggling with connection. And they're struggling with connection because they're struggling with fear and faith. And it goes like this. There once was a man who had 2 sons. And if you've been around the church at all, you might have heard this before. If you've never heard this before, I think you'll like this story. The younger said to his father, "Father, I want right now what's coming to me." And I often think when that son says that of what my dad would have said to me if I had said, "Dad, I want right now what's coming to me." He would have said, "I'll give you what's coming to you right now." And what's great about this is that the younger son here that's asking for everything is probably an older teenager. And that's really cool because we don't get a lot of insight into the teenage years of Jesus, right? About 12, and then we kind of pick it up at 30, and we're kind of guessing a little bit about what the in-between is. And here, this is an older teenager or a younger adult. And we know that because they're single, still hanging at home. So with that, the younger son here is asking for an inheritance. And you know that if you're asking for an inheritance, someone has to die. So the hard reading of this is, "Father, I want what's mine right now, and I wish you were dead." So that's a hard reading, and that's probably an accurate reading of what was happening. Also, the father would have had to sell a lot of his property or maybe the entire estate. So in essence, the younger son here is saying, "Hey, I want everything that's mine right now, and I want to ruin your life." So a typical answer back then would have been, "See ya, you're out of the house." It would just driven the son away. It's one of those, stuff on the curb kind of situations. The son gets home from work and everything's laying out on the street. Or if I were the parent in charge, and because I have a black belt in helicopter parenting, I would have just restricted him. I would have just said, "Okay, you're not going to do anything. I'm going to take your keys to the back burrow. Give me the keys to the burrow." Or I'm going to you can't buy the new sandals. Or since they didn't have phones, I don't know. Give me your quill? Give me your papyrus. I don't know, Google that. I don't know if that's what it had. But it's not an easy situation. It isn't, because parenting isn't easy. But what happens here would have shocked the listeners of Jesus' time. And that is, the father, instead of helicopter, instead of kicking him out, the father lets him go. And that's a really hard decision. But that was faith. And I have to ask, why did the son want to leave? I mean, what was happening there? Well, maybe he was single, and maybe he didn't want to be single, and maybe there was something happening in town that he wanted to be a part of, and we didn't have Tinder, so there was no swipey left, swipey right going on. And so he had a fear of missing out on what was happening. So maybe that's why he wanted to leave. Fear. So the father divided the property between the sons, because there were 2. And it wasn't long before the younger son packed his bags and took off. And then he went into town, and undisciplined and dissipated, guess what? He wasted everything, lost all of his money. And at the same time, there was a famine in the land. So he started to hurt. So he's broke and he's hungry. So he takes on a job with a citizen there who lets him work slopping pigs. It's not a good job. And he was so hungry that he would have eaten the corn cobs out of the pig slop, but they wouldn't give him any. And guess what? That brought him to his senses. And so he said, all the farmhands working for my father, they get 3 meals a day. I think I'll head home and I'll do this. So he came up with a plan. I'll say to my father, Father, I've sinned against God and I've sinned before you, and I don't deserve to be called your son. So take me on as a hired hand. And he got up and he went home to his father. Now remember that the breakup there was pretty severe. But here's something really cool that I think if we could just read into a little bit that happened about this young man. He learned. And I think that's something that our younger generations can do really, really well. They can learn. And his heart changed. And I think that's something that happens in our younger generations really, really well. And that is change. Because as I get older, I find that it's harder and harder to change. So I assume the son was scared here. He headed for home. And if you don't hear anything today, hear this. Coming home, that takes faith. So while he was still the son, a long way off, the father saw him. Now, this is the verse I get stuck on every time, because he saw him. That means he was looking for him. It means he hadn't given up on him. And I don't know how the father spent his days while the son was gone. You know, was he praying for him? Did he send a spy out to watch him? I totally would have done that. Did he cry while he was gone? That would have been me. We don't know. We don't know what he did, but we do know this. He was looking for him, and that shows faith. So the father's heart was pounding, and he ran out. Now, older guys didn't run back then, so that was a big deal. He ran out, embraced his son, he kissed him, and the son started the speech, and he said, Father, I've sinned against God, I've sinned before you, I don't deserve to be called your son ever again. But the father didn't even listen to him. He was like, hey, hired hands, come here. My son's home. First of all, let's give him some new clothes, because he stinks like a pig, all right? So that happened. And then put shoes on his feet and put a ring on his finger. And the significance of that ring is amazing, because it was a signature, kind of a signature ring. And when he put it on his finger, that ushered him right back into the family immediately. And then after that, well, they just had a party. Faith keeps us connected. Fear keeps us disconnected. For me and the older generation, we tend to have this fear of new things and things we don't understand. And maybe the younger generation, maybe they could help us. I think that's possible. But we're going to have to reach out. We're going to have to take that initiative. And we're going to have to ask them crazy things like, what's it like to have friends online? We don't know what that means. What does that even mean? Is it possible? What are the new careers, young person, that you're interested in? I mean, I see that you watch other people play video games all day long, and who in the world would watch other people play games like football and basketball? But you can actually make money from that. Maybe if you had a Twitch account and you were streaming, or maybe there's a career in video. Or how do relationships work? Can you explain that to me? Help me understand that. Help me understand how relationships work online, or how they don't work. Or maybe I can ask you, young person, where do you need support? Like, how can I come around you? How can I be in your life? How can I give you some love? You say that you're alone, and I'm saying, I'm right here. And maybe I can just ask them, if we're brave, how they're feeling about their life. What is it like today? Help us understand. But we can only do that if we stay connected. Now, younger generation, I just have a question for you. What are you missing out on? Like, really, what is it? Maybe the party that you saw on Snap, maybe that wasn't as great as those pictures looked. Or maybe that influencer that you follow that has all that money and all those Lamborghinis, maybe they don't make as much money as you think. Some do, some don't. And maybe, young person, face-to-face life has immense value. And maybe if your anxiety's up, maybe less screen time could bring you some peace. Maybe barbecue sauce is just dumb. And maybe somebody from the older generation could help you learn things that the online world can't teach you because it just doesn't translate if we stay connected. And to all of us, where are you disconnected? Where is fear controlling you? Because letting go of things like the Father takes faith. Waiting prayerfully takes faith. Forgiving one another, it takes faith. And coming home takes faith. So come home. We're looking for you. Come home. The Father is looking for you.
At this time in our service, we invite you to join us as we prepare our offerings. If you would like to give by using your device, you can use the Woodcrest app or text your gift amount to 77977. There are also boxes to place your offerings in as you leave the service today. We are grateful for the ways you share not only your monetary resources, but also the way you generously give of yourselves, both serving and praying for our church. We are thrilled to open our KidCrest facility back up this morning. If you have children from infants to 5th grade, we would love to have them join us for a kid-friendly service and childcare while you enjoy the service in the auditorium. Due to limitations and social distancing, we will need to have you pre-register, and you can do that by going to register.woodcrest.org. We're looking forward to welcoming our kiddos back to Sunday services. And for our middle and high schoolers, they are back hanging out in the gym and watching the service as a group beginning at 10:45. It's a fun and relaxing atmosphere for our youth and is open to all students in 6th through 12th grade. We hope you will encourage your kids to join us either in KidCrest or in the gym. We've missed the opportunity to connect with them, and we're looking forward to being able to spend Sundays together again. We have a final song if you'd like to stand and join the band, and then you'll be dismissed. Thank you for being a part of Woodcrest.
I've carried a burden for too long on my own. I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go. I see it now, I'm laying it down, and I know that I need you. I run to the Father, fall into grace, done with the hide,
Let's go through our week with faith. See you next week.